Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson and welcome to Construction Project Management Tips. I'm a professor of construction management and I've taught thousands of students over the years, and I have a deep fascination with everything construction. Today we're going to talk about Chat GPT and can it help the construction industry? There's been a lot of buzz over the last 6 months or 7 months on Chat GPT. I've been playing around with it a little bit to try to become familiar with it, and of course I'm trying to think how that might affect, well, teaching. That's a big topic altogether, but the construction industry. So, one of the best places to actually go for information about ChatGPT is ChatGPT itself. And, you can ask the question, basically, what is ChatGPT? And it'll give you a answer, and you can vet it, you can edit it, but essentially, as it says here, it's built to engage in conversational interactions, providing answers, explanations, suggestions, discussions on a wide range of topics. Construction oriented can be one of the topics, and it's very specific. You can dive really deep into some of the questions. One of the nice things about ChatGPT, if you haven't used it, I definitely suggest you do. It doesn't cost you anything at this point. You can go in there and you can ask some questions, but what it does so much better than, say, a search engine is that you can keep diving deeper. You can take that same topic as if you're questioning somebody and that's knowledgeable on the topic and dive deeper. Now, one of the things that it's actually pretty good at even warning you that the data isn't necessarily 100% correct. It could lead you in the wrong direction with things. So at this stage, for sure, I wouldn't be taking everything that it says as necessarily truth. But can you get more detailed answers? Can you narrow things down? Can you become more suspect of something by asking questions? Absolutely, absolutely you can. But just you've got to use it with a very critical mind, not that, oh, it says this, so it must be so. Because it basically is, as it says on the second bullet here, the model's pre-trained on diverse sources of data from the internet. Well, guess what? There's a lot of stuff that's not right on the internet. Currently, it's using data from the end of 2021. That's like ongoing change. That'll be changing. I'm quite sure in not that long, the data sets that it'll be grabbing will be updating constantly. But currently, that's where things are at. And I think we have to put it into a historical context, too, of how quickly things change. But definitely, it's from internet, including books. That could be pretty good. Articles, websites, allowing it to accumulate a vast amount of knowledge. And it has means and methods of vetting information that would be more likely to be correct than incorrect. But at the same time, I'm sure you've all seen on generic sort of videos and reports, oh, I asked ChatGPT this question and it was 100% wrong. Well, I can concur with that. Like, I can ask it certain building code questions, and sometimes it's right and a lot of times it's wrong. But I'm just inferring that very soon when I ask a building code question, it's probably going to be tilting more to being more correct than incorrect. And I see improvements on that, because that's something that, if you're able to say a specific code requirement and put in the parameters of what you're asking for, it over time can get pretty good at answering those questions, I believe, because it's very right or wrong in a lot of ways when you ask some of those questions. There's always gray areas, but 9 times out of 10, they give you a pretty good sense of where things are at. And, and that's the same in truth with people. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Can Chat GPT, so this is kind of what the environment looks like. And one of the things I kind of like too is that it records it, because, you can sign in. I usually use my Google thing to sign in, and it keeps basically a record of what information you've asked. So you could go back to something and you could go diving deeper into it to find out more valid information. How can ChatGPT help to improve construction management? Automating repetitive tasks such as document generation, generating reports, providing insights on project progress. I can think of an example. You know, if you've been following my YouTubes, that I do a lot of stuff on MS Project besides all the other ton of stuff on construction management. And I look at Microsoft Project and it does certain things, right? Like it will do auto leveling of resources. Well, that's something up to now you do not want it to do because it has no clue and it just distorts your schedule and makes everything very bad. It also does what we call effort-driven scheduling. So, you know, 2 people would take 2 weeks to dig a trench. It would take 4 people 1 week. It would take 2 people, yeah, that's right. 2 people 2 weeks, 4 people 1 week, 8 people 2.5 days, and then it keeps going, right? And at a certain point, it's like fiction. There's no way. Well, I think that if you had AI tools built into a software like that, you would be able to look at previous projects and give you a scenario that might be very reasonable. I'm always getting questions about durations for various activities. I think that over time there can be a lot of historical databases that it could draw upon that would give you more accuracy in predicting certain durations, or at least durations that you could review and look at to see that this maybe makes sense or doesn't make sense. More realism built into it. So I think that kind of information will be very, very helpful in supporting experienced people doing the work, vetting it, and making sure, because there's always unique factors to particular construction projects that you might not have in other environments. So that I think is very, very useful from that perspective. And you know what? You can ask the program how it can help, and you can dig into that. You know, I even create a slide deck for teaching a 3-hour class on Little's Law as it relates to lean construction. I'm sorry, so there you go. I'm an AI language model. I do not have the capability to create a slide deck, but it really does actually. It has. It's not going to be with images and things of that nature yet, and I'm saying yet. But definitely it gives you a breakdown, and then you can ask deeper questions of things, and then you can review it, of course, to make sure that this actually makes sense. Like work in progress throughput, I'd have cycle time there. You know, there'd be differences, but it would definitely give you a good starting point. That could save you a few hours in putting that together. I can see how it could be helpful for me in that case. It could be helpful when the data sets get to be current to say update it to more current data sets and information, to review it for those purposes. So I can see a lot of use in there. Now, the other thing I found, and I'm thinking about this a lot, right? And maybe take a minute, and I've done this in some other presentations, so you might have seen it if you've watched some of my other presentations. By the way, if you enjoy construction management, how things get done, productivity tools, leadership, click subscribe. You'll take a look at my playlist. You'll see I have a wealth of information loaded up on there, and it can be very helpful for you that way. So please, and it helps to support the channel, click notifications. But if you take a few minutes, take a look, maybe even just pause this, because I don't think I'll wait too long here, but take a good look at this. And I'll give just a few seconds here, and you can pause it. What's going on, right? Now, I live in Toronto, and I could probably go to practically any intersection in the main part of the city and see something a little bit similar, but not as chaotic. Not as chaotic. Lots of traffic, but this seems like absolute chaos. People don't know when to cross. You've got streetcars. You've got horse and buggies. You've got some gas-powered vehicles, Model Ts, etc. So this is at the crust of technological change. This is Chicago 1908. And what you don't see is streetlights. So we make all these advancements, you know, with the streetcars and the gas-powered vehicles and the transition from horses to all these other types of vehicles. Big sort of shifts taking place. But when these big shifts take place, sometimes we don't have everything in place for it. So I look at Chat GPT as, and it's just one of many that are going to be, you know, evolving in the next short while. Microsoft has invested a lot of money into Chat GPT. Google has its own stuff going. But you look at that, and I think, and this has been some of the feedback too with some of the innovators in the AI area, that they've kind of gotten nervous that it's moving too fast. Because that's the thing, it does go very, very fast. The rate of technological change is totally ramped up in the last 15, 20 years. It's been happening since the Industrial Revolution, but it's been getting faster and faster and faster. And so that means that very often things are going to come out, and then regulatory authorities, governments, they're like spinning on their heels because they've got these big bureaucracies, political environments, and it takes time to enact laws and regulations. And then there's this big sort of turnaround. It's kind of like when Uber came into probably your city too, wherever that may be, but Toronto, it was kind of like politicians, oh, we can't have Uber. But meanwhile, everybody was already using it, and then if they took it away, they'd lose votes, quite frankly. Taxi drivers didn't like it, and the licensing, cities made a lot of money from licensing, so there's this disruption that takes place. So you can expect that with Chat GPT, and there'll be responses. Things will happen later on. You know, cell phones. Everybody was driving and using their cell phones, and that was okay the first few years until everybody was getting into accidents and a lot of people were getting killed. And then they put in laws to say, you know, you've got to not use your cell phones when you're driving. So we're in this environment, and that there's going to be some things that may play a role here. As I said, this rate of change has been speeding up rather dramatically, and we have to also be able to, part of that too is learn faster and govern faster, as I just said. ChatGPT, though, used in the right way, can help you to learn faster. If you're trying to make it do everything for you without thinking about it, you're going to run into problems. It's kind of like when I've had students that would, you know, a student would come, oh, that student over there, they used a template for their schedule. I'm like, I don't care if they used a template as long as they made the template work. But then I look at it and it's like they've got things in the schedule that aren't in the project that I've given them. So it's not working very well, right? If you're thinking that you're just going to do ChatGPT and not look at it and not think about it, in this stage of our evolution, you're going to run into a lot of problems. But if you're thinking you're going to use it, how can I use it to get my work done better? To get my work done more efficiently, to make things go smoother in the construction environment, to learn from things as we're going, to make our construction environment safer, to make it less focused on kind of bureaucratic tasks that slow us down. If you're going to use that to your advantage, I think that's a good thing. But again, you've got to look at it very, very carefully to make sure that you're not accepting something that is substandard, that is going to be detrimental to you, your project, your team, clients, others that you interact with. So this is where this comes full frame. And, you know, you can think of some historical comparisons, and some of these are, you know, the media or the movie sector can make things a little bit scary. But I think Alan Turing had what they called the Turing test, 1950. This is just taken from Wikipedia. And Alan Turing, of course, basically during World War II, basically had was one of the code busters for basically England, and was one instrumental in actually helping to break some of Germany's codes that helped in a lot of ways tilt things in basically the West's favor during World War II. So basically a real hero during that time period. But he had this test that basically, you know, can you have a conversation with basically this AI and not know it's AI? And that's kind of telling you that it's been successful, right? When it's indistinguishable from that of a human. So I think that's pretty close. Like that, you know, people can dispute and go back and forth on that, but that's pretty close. And it's going to, if you want to argue that it's not there, it will be there in not too long. That aspect of it. Thinking for itself and innovating and creating, that's a ways to go. Kasparov and Big Blue, so that was IBM's, and Kasparov, of course, world chess champion, one of the best ever. First time could beat it. Second time it had improved enough that couldn't beat it anymore. So that was kind of like where the computer could outthink a human in the chess world, the best human in chess at the time. HAL in 2001, A Space Odyssey. When I was a little kid, I remember that movie came out, and it was kind of spooky because this computer was able to basically choose between life and death and humans and that sort of thing. And of course, more recently, Star Trek and the Borg. If you watch the Next Generation, basically, and Data, artificial intelligence. And the one that we all get nervous about is Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator with Skynet and these types of things. I don't perceive a Skynet, but I do perceive governments and military aspects of utilizing it for sure. And so that can be definitely scary stuff. So as I said, there is some scary stuff with artificial intelligence, but I think, humans generally try to do things for the betterment, but there will have to be some controls and that put into place. But for now, like things like Chat GPT, basically it can be a helpful tool for you to really get down to an answer on something. I had a question lately for my accountant, and I was kind of getting left, right, and center, and I wasn't getting exact answer, and I just went on Chat GPT, and then it kind of gave me the answer, and then I said to the accountant, does this make sense? And he said, yeah, that makes sense. And so it was okay. So you can use it as a tool to help you in those particular areas. Anyways, that's the quick sort of intro to Chat GPT. I would give it a try. It's very easy to use. Think of something in your realm of construction that you would like to dive a little bit deeper or get a little bit more questions. And don't accept the first answer it gives. It's almost like the 5 whys. Keep asking more deeper questions of it, and then you can usually get more specific in what you're asked after. All right, so I'm Tom Stephenson. If you haven't clicked subscribe yet, please do. And I'm wishing you a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.